Have you ever seen a dream so big it had its own zip code? A dream wrapped in red Arizona soil, packed with promises of unity, love, and legacy, only to watch it slowly crack, piece by piece, like the very foundation it was meant to be built upon? Welcome to the twisted, tangled, and heartbreaking story of Coyote Pass, where the land was never just land. It was the final hope of a family on the edge of collapse. For over a decade, America was invited into the world of the Browns, one man, four wives, and a vision of plural love that promised harmony. But behind the TLC cameras and those carefully framed family dinners, a storm was always brewing. And now, the storm has hit. What started as a bold experiment in polygamy has unraveled into something darker: legal threats, financial chaos, bitter silence, and one piece of property that refuses to let go. Coyote Pass, once seen as a new beginning, has now become the battleground for broken promises and fractured hearts. This isn't just about square footage or property deeds. No, this is about betrayal. It's about a man who once led with confidence and control, now surrounded by ex-wives demanding justice. It's about women who gave decades of their lives only to be left with questions, resentment, and very little to show for it. And it's about a dream that turned into a haunting reminder of everything that went wrong. So, what really happened at Coyote Pass? Why did Robin hesitate to sign? How did Janelle and Meri end up fighting for land they helped pay for but didn't legally own? And where does Cody Brown stand amid the ruins of a family he once ruled over? Buckle up, because this isn't just a family drama. It's a cautionary tale about love, control, legacy, and the heavy price of letting go. Before the betrayals, before the silent treatments, before the land dispute made headlines, there was love, or at least there was the idea of it. The Browns were once the poster family for modern polygamy. Messy, sure, but united in purpose. Cody Brown, a charming, animated, idealistic man, believed he could build something different, something bigger. A kingdom built on plural marriage, mutual respect, shared faith, and dozens of tiny footsteps running through one giant blended household. It all began with Meri, the first wife, the one who stood beside Cody when the dream was just beginning. Young, devoted, and fully invested in their shared faith, Meri believed in the principle of plural marriage, that God's plan included sister wives and eternal family expansion. She wasn't just marrying a man, she was committing to a lifestyle. Then came Janelle, logical, steady, and spiritually aligned with the faith, but with a cool temperament that balanced Cody's emotional fire. She wasn't the jealous type. She was the type to build the budget, carry the mental load, and make sure the kids had insurance. Christine followed. Sweet, nurturing, but also deeply tied to the cultural traditions of polygamy. She brought warmth, personality, and yes, expectations. Expectations that she'd be loved, seen, and valued just like the others. But Christine was also the one who would quietly, and eventually not so quietly, question everything. At first, the balance was delicate, but it existed. Three wives, one shared vision, a community of children, a home built on belief, and a camera crew from TLC ready to document it all. Sister Wives wasn't just a show, it was a phenomenon. Viewers couldn't look away. Was it chaos? Yes. But it worked, at least on the surface. And then came Robin, the fourth wife, the game changer. Robin entered Cody's life like a whirlwind in 2010, and with her came new energy and a quiet storm of shifting loyalties. She was younger, emotional, and deeply bonded with Cody in a way the others weren't. Cody glowed differently around her. He smiled more. He listened more. And that didn't go unnoticed. Robin was the first legal wife. After Cody divorced Meri on paper to make the paperwork work for her and her kids, it was presented as a formality. But for the other wives, something shifted. The family dynamic was no longer a circle. It was a hierarchy. And Robin, whether she intended to or not, became the queen. Still, the Browns tried. Despite the growing cracks, they stayed together and moved to Las Vegas in 2011. It was supposed to be a new chapter, fresh air, fresh start. They bought four separate homes on the same cul-de-sac and created a suburban polygamist village. For a moment, things seemed stable. They laughed together, they built lives, the kids thrived, and fans believed the dream might actually work. But even in Vegas, the tension was simmering. And as the kids grew and the marriages aged, and Cody's attention tilted more and more toward Robin, the other wives began to see the writing on the wall. Then came Coyote Pass. In 2018, the Browns announced yet another move, this time to Flagstaff, Arizona. A plot of undeveloped land called Coyote Pass would become their new forever home, a shared property, a multi-house layout. One big piece of land where each wife would have her own home, but they'd remain spiritually and emotionally connected. It was the physical manifestation of their dream, a symbol that the Brown family, fractured or not, was still in it together. They bought the land for nearly $1 million, splitting it in complex financial arrangements with the hope that construction would begin soon. But building never started. Life happened instead. Coyote Pass was supposed to unite them, but instead it became a ticking time bomb, a dusty patch of undeveloped land holding all their unspoken resentments. Because behind the scenes, the family wasn't building anything. They were quietly falling apart, and no one, not even Cody, seemed ready for what would come next. It didn't happen all at once. The end came in quiet waves, late night silences, tense glances, missed birthdays, and conversations that circled but never landed. For years, the Browns claimed they were united, but the cracks were growing deeper, and the dream of plural harmony, it was collapsing under its own weight. And when it finally broke, it was Christine who stood up first. Christine's departure in 2021 wasn't some dramatic overnight decision. It was slow, painful, and brewing for years. She had been loyal, patient, and endlessly giving. But something had shifted. The affection was gone. The partnership had eroded. And when Christine sat in front of a camera and calmly declared she was leaving Cody after 25 years, it sent shockwaves through the family and the fandom. But those closest to her, they weren't surprised. Christine had begged for more respect, more involvement, more love, and instead, what she got was cold avoidance, public dismissal, and a husband who seemed more interested in preserving control than repairing relationships. She wanted a partner. Cody gave her lectures. She wanted family unity. Cody gave her distance. And eventually, Christine gave up. She packed her things, took her children, and moved back to Utah. It was the first domino to fall. But it wouldn't be the last. Janelle was next. But Janelle's path was different. She was never one for theatrics. She kept things buttoned up, emotionally guarded, and focused on logic. She supported Cody, backed him on decisions, even when they were controversial. But over time, she began to see what many already had. Cody was slipping away from the other wives, from the vision, from the responsibilities he once held tightly. Janelle stayed longer than Christine, maybe because she believed in the structure, or maybe because she didn't want to believe it was really over. But her breaking point came when she realized Cody no longer considered her an equal, that his loyalty was reserved for Robin, that he no longer saw their partnership as vital. Their final argument, broadcasted for millions, was raw and heartbreaking. Cody yelling, Janelle walking out. A love story that never quite reached its potential, ending in silence. Then there was Meri, the first wife, the original cornerstone. Her journey was different, more tragic in a quiet, lingering way. Meri had been emotionally separated from Cody for years. Everyone saw it. The infamous catfishing scandal in 2015 had already fractured their bond. And though they publicly stayed spiritually married, their connection had long since faded. Cody himself admitted he no longer considered Meri a wife. He even said there was no spark. And Meri? She just kept holding on, hoping, waiting. Until finally she stopped waiting altogether. By early 2023, Meri confirmed what fans had known for years. They were done. There was no partnership, no marriage, just distance. So she let go, with dignity. with sorrow, and with a bittersweet kind of freedom. And through it all stood Robin, the fourth wife, the legal wife, the last one standing. Once painted as the peacemaker, Robin's role changed dramatically as the others walked away. With Christine gone, Janelle estranged, and Meri quietly exiting, Robin found herself in a monogamous marriage with Cody, a twist no one expected when this all began. Robin always claimed she was committed to the plural lifestyle. She cried over the fractures. She hoped for healing. But some fans noticed the shift. How Robin and Cody began functioning as a unit. How decisions were made privately, not collectively. How she defended him, stood by him, and received the emotional energy the other wives no longer did. It wasn't just that the other marriages ended, it was that Cody stopped fighting for them. And he poured everything he had left into Robin. And now, the wreckage is undeniable. A once massive, complex family reduced to fragments. Sisters turned strangers. Kids caught in between. A man once celebrated as a polygamist patriarch now sitting in the ruins of his own creation. And the silence? It's loud. The trust is gone. The love faded. And in its place, hurt, betrayal, confusion, and the haunting question no one wants to say out loud. Was it ever real to begin with? When the emotional bonds shattered, what remained was the land. Coyote Pass, a dusty, empty stretch of Arizona soil that once promised a future, now buried in the past. The dream was dead, but the property was still very much alive. And with it came something far more complicated than polygamy or love: money, ownership, and a battle for justice. Coyote Pass wasn't just a place, it was a symbol. Cody sold it to his wives as a vision of unity. One day, each of them would have their own home. Their kids would play across shared yards. They'd grow old together, bonded not just by faith, but by land. But that vision was never realized. The move to Flagstaff in 2018 was chaotic, rushed, and filled with financial strain. They sold their Las Vegas homes under pressure, scattered across rental properties, and found themselves sitting on $1 million plot with no construction, no blueprint, and no timeline. And when the marriages began unraveling, the ownership of that land became a ticking time bomb. For years, Cody and Robin held the majority of the legal rights. Despite years of emotional labor and financial contributions, Meri and Janelle were left with little to no actual stake in the land they helped buy. Christine, having emotionally checked out and eager to move on, gave up her share entirely when she walked away. But Meri and Janelle? They weren't ready to disappear without reclaiming what they were owed. Behind closed doors, the talks turned tense. Cody, now fully invested in his monogamous life with Robin, seemed uninterested in compromising. He downplayed Meri and Janelle's claims, shrugged off their frustrations, and tried to maintain control. But these women had reached their limit. By late 2024, legal conversations began. Meri and Janelle wanted their rightful share, not just emotionally, but financially. They had put in decades, helped raise 18 kids, stood by a man who now seemed to only acknowledge Robin as his true partner. It wasn't about revenge, it was about fairness. Then finally, a breakthrough. In early 2025, news broke that the Coyote Pass land had officially been redivided. Meri and Janelle were granted more equal ownership. 2 smaller plots were divided, one owned by Robin and Cody, the other by Janelle and Meri. The larger parcels were now shared by all 4. It was a step forward, sure. But the relief? It was complicated. Because even though the land was now divided more fairly on paper, the emotional stakes were just as high. This wasn't just a business deal. This was decades of pain, betrayal, and unmet promises being carved into acres and signatures. And Robin? Her reluctance to sign the papers didn't go unnoticed. While the others finalized their parts in January 2025, Robin held off for 2 long months. She didn't sign until March, just one day before the deeds were officially recorded. To some, that delay looked like doubt, like hesitation, like a woman still clinging to a fantasy that the family might one day come back together, that the land could still represent hope instead of heartbreak. But the truth? That hope was gone. And Robin knew it. Her signature may have been late, but it sealed the truth. The family would never return to what it was. Now, the question isn't who owns what, it's what comes next. Because owning land with your ex husband and his new favorite wife is no easy task. Selling it requires cooperation, agreements, unified decisions. And after everything they've been through, trust is in short supply. Janelle wants her equity. Meri wants closure. Cody wants control. Robin wants to hold on to the last piece of the dream. And no one wants to be the one who gives in. So the land sits, quiet, untouched. A monument to what could have been, a graveyard of promises. Coyote Pass was once supposed to be their future. Now it's a battlefield. While the adults were locked in conflict over land, love, and loyalty, something quieter but equally powerful was happening in the background. The kids were growing up, watching everything, feeling everything, and one by one they started walking away, not just from the show, but from the idea of polygamy altogether. And at the heart of this emotional exit was Leon. Once known to fans as Mariah, Leon Brown had been part of the show from the very beginning. Born to Cody and Meri, Leon was the only child from that union. And for years, they tried to fit the mold of the perfect daughter in a complex, often stifling family system. But behind that on-camera smile was a person fighting to be seen, to be accepted. And when they finally came forward in 2021, sharing publicly that they were non-binary and would be using they-them pronouns, it was both brave and deeply personal. Leon's announcement came with a powerful message about identity, truth, and self-worth. But it also marked a shift. After that, they quietly stepped away from the show. No drama, no formal exit, just distance. They moved to Denver with their partner Audrey and started building a life on their own terms. A life that didn't involve filming, or family drama, or trying to explain who they were to people who may never understand. But just because they left the cameras behind doesn't mean they escaped the pain. In 2024, the family was hit with an unbearable loss. Garrison Brown, Janelle and Cody's son, passed away. His death sent shockwaves through the family, and Leon was devastated. In a rare, deeply emotional Instagram post, Leon opened up. "This year broke me beyond words," they wrote. "Grief became the center of my world." They didn't mention Garrison by name, but the heartbreak was clear. A sibling gone far too soon. A wound that won't heal. They also spoke about loss in a broader sense. "I lost people I never thought I would," they added, hinting not just at death, but estrangement. From Cody. From parts of the family that couldn't or wouldn't accept them fully. The post wasn't just a tribute to grief. It was a declaration of survival, of choosing peace, even when it meant leaving the past behind. Leon's relationship with Meri has remained strong through it all. Meri has been one of Leon's most vocal supporters, always affirming their identity and speaking with pride about who Leon is today. In interviews, she's called them beautiful, brilliant, and brave. And behind the scenes, they talk often. There's love there, unconditional and unwavering. But Cody? That's another story. Their relationship has been strained, at best. Cody has made few public statements about Leon since their coming out. His silence has been loud. And for Leon, whose journey has been so centered on authenticity, that lack of support speaks volumes. So, Leon stays away from Flagstaff, from the family drama, from the reality TV spotlight that once shaped their entire adolescence. Now their life is quiet, personal, and deeply intentional. They occasionally share glimpses on Instagram, a moment with Audrey, a quote that moved them, a photo from a march or a peaceful hike. But the posts are rare and the message is clear. Privacy is a form of power. Leon isn't the only brown child to create distance. Many of the older kids, Logan, Aspen, Hunter, Maddie, have built lives outside the bubble of their polygamist upbringing. They've married, moved, and made it clear they have no desire to follow in their father's footsteps. The cracks in the Brown family structure didn't just affect the wives, they fractured the foundation for the next generation too. And who can blame them? They grew up watching broken promises, public fights, and the slow unraveling of the very system that was supposed to unite them. And now, as adults, they're choosing something different: monogamy, simplicity, distance, healing. Leon's story may not be part of Sister Wives anymore, but it's just as important because it's real, it's raw, and it's a reflection of what happens when identity collides with tradition, when family becomes a battleground, and when walking away is the only way to survive. And now, here we are, standing at the edge of a dream that never came true. Coyote Pass, once the heart of a bold new chapter for the Brown family, now lies quiet, still, and full of ghosts. It's more than land, it's memory, a place that holds the echoes of laughter, the sting of betrayal, and the ruins of a family once built on faith. Will it ever be sold? Maybe, but not without more pain. Because selling Coyote Pass isn't just about dividing dirt and dollars, it's about admitting that the dream is over. It means saying goodbye to the fantasy of unity. And for people like Robin, that goodbye may be too much to bear. Robin has held on to that dream longer than anyone. She didn't just buy into polygamy, she believed in it. She believed in growing old with her sister wives, raising kids side by side, building homes across the land they'd all sacrificed to buy. But now, she's alone with Cody in a life that looks nothing like what she signed up for. Her grief is quiet, unspoken, and still unresolved. And then there's Cody, unraveling. Once the confident, charming patriarch at the center of the family, he now seems like a man cornered by his own choices. 3 marriages gone, relationships with his children fractured, and all he has left is Robin and a property that won't let go. Meanwhile, Meri and Janelle, strong, patient, and so often overlooked, are fighting for something more than money. They're fighting for freedom. After years of loyalty, of swallowing their feelings and playing the role, they're finally rewriting their own stories, no longer tied to a man who made them feel small, no longer waiting for promises that will never be kept. They've earned the right to peace. And what can we learn from all of this? That love isn't always enough, that loyalty can sometimes hold you back, that even in families built on faith, people change, dreams shift, and sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away. The Browns showed us their lives for over a decade, the highs, the heartbreaks, the messy middle. And now, in the silence of Coyote Pass, we see the truth. Sometimes the hardest thing about moving forward is leaving the dream behind. But maybe, just maybe, that's the only way real healing begins. Thank you for joining me on this emotional journey through the heartbreak, history, and hope tangled up in Coyote Pass. If this story moved you, if you saw pieces of your own family in theirs, or if you've ever had to let go of a dream to find peace, you're not alone. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an update. And if you felt something today, drop a thumbs up or leave a comment below. I want to hear your thoughts. Do you think the Browns will ever truly heal? Will Coyote Pass ever be more than a symbol of what was lost? There's still so much to uncover. And we're just getting started. Until next time, take care of your heart, your home, and the people who show up for you when things fall apart. I'll see you in the next one.